All right, let's try this again. Frank at BackBeat. Happy New Year. Oh, wait. All right, I think I might have it. So, yeah, 2021, the end of 2021 and the lathe, technical issues, technical difficulties. Technical difficulties, seems like there's been some technical difficulties all around. Um, with the lathe in the shop, the technical difficulties, the end of 2021, I guess the last 4 or 5 months, we started to see some pretty significant losses on the back end of turning. Sticks were coming out pretty crooked, losing 30%, 35%. And I knew there was an alignment issue going on. Alignment has been kind of a troublesome sore spot with the lathe ever since probably 4 years ago. And when we did the big rearrange in the shop, we moved a bunch of tooling around. We moved the lathe across the room, and that was right around the pandemic when we got shut down. We did that 2 weeks before the pandemic shut down, and I bit the bullet and I did a whole lot of carriage work. There's some pretty significant wear on this 50-year-old machine. Bushings were worn in the carriage. There's no longer any technical support or any parts available for this machine, so I had to fabricate bushings in-house. That proved to be a challenge with the pandemic shutdown and getting materials in from different places across the country just being closed due to mandates. So once the carriage got rebuilt, then began the process of getting it all back together and doing some trials. We got it back together and soon realized that there was a definite alignment issue going on between the head spindle and the tail spindle. Those two components, they hold the stick, they hold the blank, and then the stick gets turned out of the blank between those centers. When I would talk to John at Goodspeed before he retired 2 years ago, his solution was just to put the two spindle points together and align them up, and the lathe would be in alignment. Well, it seems like there was a little bit of information lost there. If those two components, the drive spindle and the tail spindle, are not in alignment, meaning that they're not in a straight line, the lathe will make crooked sticks. Just due to the nature of how it operates. So with that said, I began the troubleshooting to diagnose where the misalignment was occurring. And at first I thought the lathe might have been bent from being dropped at some point in its life. There's some damage on the lower left leg, but it seems hard to believe on such an industrious machine. So I kind of ruled that out. It was still in the back of my mind. Upon doing a lot of diagnosing and digging deep in my memories of conversations I had with John at Goodspeed. Goodspeed is the company that manufactured the lathe, and Goodspeed is now defunct. John retired 2 years ago, so now there's really no technical help available with the lathe. So we're kind of left to our own devices, and so it took some creativity and a lot of failed attempts. We tried different mechanisms. We tried manufacturing parts, pieces, alignment tools, aligning the die, the tail spindle with the die. That proved futile. One of the conversations I had with John was that this was years ago, was that the head block and the tail block, where the drive spur and the tail spindle reside respectively, are milled per machine. So with that said, it seemed like the tail block on the Goodspeed that is in the shop, the tail spindle was sitting too low. We diagnosed this through the use of a dial indicator and utilizing the bed as a stable base to pull measurements from the head spindle and the tail spindle to realize that the tail spindle was roughly 21 to 22 thousandths too low. So based on deduction, I think through the course of this machine's life that the tail spindle was inadvertently swapped with another lathe by a previous owner who owned two of the machines, this one being one of them. So with that said, that left us with some creative ingenuity to elevate the tail block, and thus finding shims to shim the tail block that would work and be solid enough to support a clamp down from the tail block clamp. So with that said, we went with a 21 thousandth shim under the tail block. That elevated us to roughly the right height, and then began the processes of aligning the horizontal axis with set screws that are built into the back of the tail block, adjusting the angle and also the horizontal alignment with the drive spindle. So we had to figure out a way to do that. Well, I had an epiphany one night and realized that we could actually align the lathe with a dial indicator or two, and the last month or so of 2021, December of 2021, we spent the better part of that working with dial indicators and aligning the tail spindle in respect to the drive spindle. I still don't think it's quite right. We're running some trials, batches of sticks to see what happens. So far, loss is significantly less. I have a feeling there's probably an issue with some bed wear. Where the tail block sits, there's wear on one side and no wear on the other. So it's possible that there's a slight downward angle on the tail spindle causing our measurements to be thrown off a little bit. With that said, we're going to keep moving forward with making sticks in small batches, and I'll order materials on Monday and see what we can do to catch up a little bit on out of stock variables. I apologize that we've been out of certain sticks for quite a while. We've been out of 565, 550s, 535s, even some of the specialty sticks, some 17-inch sticks that are manufactured, and so we're gonna work pretty diligently, but in small batches. So be patient. If you're waiting on a special order, please be patient. We're getting there. It's just going to take a little bit of time. I just don't want to burn a bunch of stock and have it go to waste. Alright, and with all that said, after getting to the crux of the challenge with the lathe, it looks like it might be a really good 2022. I'm going to take that might out of there. It's looking like it's going to be a really good 2022. Now that I know what's going on with the lathe, we can work through the kinks. I hope everybody's doing well, and I hope you have a happy new year. Here's to 2022, turning things around for me and you. Y'all take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.